This is the plaintiff, George. He says he does handyman work and was hired by the defendant to do some work around her house. The woman paid him in full and then turned around and stopped payment. The defendant also insulted him, called him a misogynist, and was downright abusive. He refuses to just walk away from the $785 she still owes him, so he's suing for just that today. This is the defendant, Lucy. She says the guy walked into her house with no mask during the pandemic. Her dogs started barking at him, and he said, "Looks like not too many men walk into this house," which was very unprofessional. Bottom line, the man did a horrible job. He left her place a bloomin' mess, and she's not paying. She's accused of shortchanging a handyman.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says he was hired by the defendant to do some work around her house, and then she went and stopped payment on his check. But the defendant says the plaintiff was rude to her. He didn't wear a mask in her house in the middle of a pandemic and is owed nothing for his shoddy work. It's the case of mask up or pay up.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right. Mr. George, you are suing Ms. Lucy for $785, $390 of it, money that you say she owes you and stopped payment on, and the rest of it for pain and suffering and returned check fees. What happened?
I received a text from her the Friday before Thanksgiving of last year, and it said that she was a friend of a friend who is a very dear friend of mine who lost his wife last year of 61 years, and he's in incredible grieving right now, and I will do anything to help this guy. So when I received the text from the defendant,
You went into overdrive because she said she was a friend of Putter's.
she doesn't know Putter.
Well, as it turns out, she's a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of Putter's or something. It's some
Apparently, I don't know.
All right, but so you agree on $65 an hour to do some handiwork, and it's an actual hourly fee, correct? Like it's not by the job, it's by the hour.
You know, I charge a minimum of 2 hours to do anything.
Right.
And then it's $65 an hour for every hour after.
Right, but it's by the hour, and she agrees to it, and then you go there, and how many hours of work do you do?
6 hours.
All right, so she pays you the $65. She pays you by check?
Yes,
the $65 an hour.
For $390.
$90. And does she express any concern before she pays you? Is she upset about anything? Does she?
Nothing. She's complimentary. She's friendly. She tells me that she actually doesn't know my friend, but that she got my number from someone else. And that's when I'm like, what? You know. But no, she expressed no concern whatsoever. And then it was on Thanksgiving Day that I found out that the check had been stopped. And that's not a great day to have a stop check.
Right. So do you call her or what do you do?
I texted her, and I believe, and I certainly hope I've been professional this whole time. She sent me the world's longest text, and when she called me a misogynist, that's when I stopped reading it. I don't even know what the rest of the text says. I've never read it. I just simply realized that I needed to just go to court and file a small claims case.
Let me hear from you, Ms. Lucy. You paid the guy a check for $390 and then you stopped payment on it. Why?
Well, because I realized that he had left a huge mess.
But you realized that the day you were writing out the check. There's nothing new. That wasn't a surprise, was it?
Well, I was working when he was in the house, and I was going to let it go. I was just going to deal with the mess that he left. And that's why I wrote him the check. But after he left, and I finished my work that I was doing at the dining room table, I went in and I saw the electrical sockets that he hadn't put back. I saw the shelves. I went to the front, and there was a mess in the front. There was a mess in the backyard. He left such a mess, and I thought to myself, no, that's not right. I'm not going to pay him the full amount. So the next morning, I texted him and I said, I'm not going to pay you the entire amount, but I will pay you half because you did half the work. Now I will pay you,
Right,
half
but
the
see, you
amount.
weren't paying him by the job. If you had said, I'm going to pay you $390 to paint these 2 rooms, and then you say, well, he only got to one of the rooms. I understand what you're saying, but your agreement with him was to pay him by the hour, right?
Yes.
And that's just math. He spent, X amount of time doing the work, so you owe him Y. That's it. It's just math. So you would have to hire him for more hours to do the work that was undone, because you were there, the work that was done. And this is why I don't hire people by the hour. It makes me nervous. I don't like it. I feel like they may milk it. I'm constantly on edge and anxiety ridden about whether they're dragging their feet. I don't hire people by the hour. But you did. And so when you did that, and if he spent 6 hours, why isn't he entitled to $390? Because you thought 6 hours would yield you more, but it turns out that's the risk you take. Where's the misogyny part? Okay, here we go. Not to mention your rude, arrogant behavior when you first walked into my house and said, because my dogs were barking, that there must not be many men coming to my house. Misogyny much? Or you putting your fingers in your ears when you were trying to talk to me and my dogs were barking. Very childish. So you found it to be sexist when he said there must not be a lot of men coming to your house.
Yes, but that's not the reason I don't want to pay him. $65 an hour is a lot of money. And I thought that for $65 an hour, I would be completely hands off. So it's not that I expected him to do all of the work. I understand if he wasn't able to finish, but because I assumed he was a professional handyman, I would assume he would come into my house and say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do this room. I'm not going to be able to do that, but I can do this. So it was his responsibility to tell me what it was that he was able to do in that amount of time.
All he has to do is tell you my time is worth $65 an hour. And then all you have to do is answer my question, was he there 6 hours? If those 2 things are correct, then don't rehire him. Hire somebody who charges you by the job. But the fact that everything you wanted couldn't be done cannot possibly mean that you get to turn around and then say to him, oh, and by the way, I know I wrote you a check, but now I'm going to stop payment on it. Because he can sue you under 2 theories. One is you breached the contract because he worked 6 hours, you're supposed to pay him, and that's that. And the other is that he can sue you on the written instrument because you wrote the check, which is like, it means I'm going to pay you. And then you turn around and sneaky, and then you stop payment on it.
No, but I told him, don't cash the check. And I told him that I was going to write him another check.
Yes, but that's not up to you. It's not up to you.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Well, it definitely is a clash of personalities here. The question, is any of that relevant in terms of whether the plaintiff gets paid? Let's go back into the courtroom and find out.
He set a price for his time, and you agreed to it, and then he spent the amount of time there. And if he walks in and you felt he was being sexist when he says, not too many men must come here, which I mean, I guess that could be sexist. I don't know, whatever. I mean,
but that's not even the
right. I know, but if you don't, then just toss him. Say, you know what? I don't think this is going to work. I don't like your tone. Get out of here, and then get somebody. I mean, I don't know. Yes. But once you let the guy work there under the agreed upon terms, which are $65 an hour, and you let 6 hours pass, 6 times 65 is what the guy gets. You don't get to say you should have worked faster. Okay, no, we're done. $395 because you also get the $5 return check fee. You don't get pain and suffering in a contracts case. $395 verdict for the plaintiff.
Ms. Lucy, let me ask you, what do you think about the judge's decision? How you feel about it?
I don't think it was fair because he should have used those 6 hours to complete one job properly. He shouldn't have started another task at my house without finishing the one that he could finish completely, clean up, put the paint cans away, clean up like a professional handyman should. But it is what it is.
All right, well, that's the judge's decision. You're going to have to live with that. George, how do you feel about the verdict? Let me ask you something. Why did you say to her, it looks like not too many men have come into her house?
Simply because her dogs would not start barking at me. They just were barking constantly. And I had to block the door, and she had little barricades all around her kitchen and bathroom and whatnot to keep the dogs from approaching me. And I know from other dog behavioralists that sometimes dogs don't have a lot of male energy around them. And so when males come around them, they get weird and they get aggressive. And that's the only reason I asked that. I was not presuming anything about her social life or anything like that.
Bottom line is, you weren't saying that because you don't like women, right? That's what you're trying to say.
No, I like women.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for the case. You're happy, you get paid, and that's why we're here. Okay, Harvey, what do you think?
You know, Doug, we've seen this so much in the People's Court where somebody is just bent out of shape because they weren't treated fairly or nicely or rudely in this case. And the reality is, even if somebody is rude to you, if you owe them money, that is never a defense not to pay. You have to pay up and suck it up.
Do you two have a regular date night, and where is your favorite place to go?
We don't really have
No.
a regular date night, do we? It's
No, now every day is date night because the kids are gone.
Right. Yeah, we're empty nesters. Now we're empty nesters. You're right. So actually, we cook at home a lot more.
We do.
And when we go out, it's always like the same 2 or 3 places that are close by because
So lazy.
we know we'll be able to park there.
Right.
We know what we're going to get. It's maybe not going to be great, but it's not going to be terrible either.
Well,
right?
I have to push you against that comfort zone of yours.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, every now and then you want to go someplace. You want to be bold and go to like Midtown.
We can
or
only be
South
bold
Beach.
if there's another couple involved, because
Right.
I will never push you to be bold alone.
Yeah, you're kind of right about that.
So I'll always blame
But
it
you
on
know
the other
what?
couple,
There's-
say they wanted to go.
There's 2 or 3 other couples that we sometimes get on. We have a small boat. We get on that boat and we take it to the Miami River and then park behind.
And yeah,
the
that's one of
restaurant.
our favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Especially
That's
when
right.
we can catch sunset on the way to going over
Catch
there.
the sunset on the way, and then the city lit up at night is really beautiful.
It's really
on the
nice
way
on the way
back.
back. Yeah.